All right, what's going on there, fellas? What you just watched there was my 200 kilo, so 440 pound behind the neck push jerk, which I thought was pretty cool because I've never really done behind the neck push jerks before. So that was cool. I'm on my deload week, which I know, funny to say, big heavy single on a deload week of my primary overhead day. And as we discussed last time, what I've been doing is working up to a single on like a novel overhead movement and then cutting the accessory volume way down for my deload weeks on big overhead, especially when you're trying to be a good like a good overhead athlete. Diversity is kind of the name of the game, so giving yourself different looks on different overhead movements seems to be really helpful, and it seems to teach me a thing or two about each time about different positions. So really enjoyed those today. It was very helpful in not pressing the bar ever so slightly forward on my dip and drive. So that was pretty cool. But I wanted to talk to you guys about something today. I wanted to tell you guys about two things that have been helping with my recovery of recent. I noticed that my recovery was a little bit poor. It was kind of confusing at first. I would go 2-3 weeks and running a very moderate volume routine. My outside the gym variables are extremely consistent. Nutrition's good, hydration's good, sleep hygiene, sleep habits are good. My sleep's kind of shitty, but it always has been. And even though I'm running a very moderate volume routine, I would just frequently reach the point of that early kind of signs of overaccumulating fatigue, which for me is the sleep getting even worse. It's like, man, why the hell am I ticking over to my sleep being bad so quickly on a moderate volume routine? And usually when someone asks me this and they say, my outside the gym variables are pretty good, I'm running like a very modest volume routine, I just keep overaccumulating fatigue, they're usually kind of either stress maniacs or usually it screams to me an inadequate aerobic base. You guys have been talking about a lot, be an athlete, do your zone 2, have at least some amount of aerobic base, and you're going to be able to recover a lot better between sets during the workout. You're going to have a lower kind of resting heart rate and a lower sympathetic tone. You're going to be able to recover better between sessions. It's all around a good investment, and zone 2 work is so not taxing that it doesn't really add much to your fatigue. It's almost a net negative. There's a podcast with Alex Viada on Table Talk where he talks about this. Matt Vena's been on a bit of a zone 2 quest recently, and off of Matt talking about doing a bigger amount of zone 2 than he was even doing prior and seeing additional benefits, especially as a heavier lifter. That kind of inspired me. I was like, okay, I'm going to bump up my my zone 2 weekly to something like pretty solid. I'm going to put in a very long session on my 2 rest days, just a long zone 2 steady state session. I use a chest strap heart rate monitor. I try to get between like 120 and 135 as my, I know that doesn't measure zones, but it's a proxy for them to make sure I'm not kind of sandbagging it and going too easy. But that actually brought me to my tip. It's not just doing cardio. It's not just having a better aerobic base. But I found that I would do a big longer session of like 30 to an hour on my rest days, time allowing. And I would do just 20 minutes at the end of my weight training days. And that started to have a benefit to my recovery that seemed to be greater than just getting in better shape. And I did a little bit of reading, kind of read over some articles that I thought were interesting, read some studies I thought were interesting. And I found that there is some idea to, or some notion to the fact that doing some more zone 2, so not super difficult conditioning, but doing some cardio after your weight training session kind of increases the speed of like vagal reactivation. It kind of gets you back to a parasympathetic, it's a cue to get back to a parasympathetic, a rest and digest state a little bit faster after the workout. And that's kind of been the name of the game. That specifically is the tip, not just do some cardio, not just get in better shape, but it seems that doing like a 20-minute zone 2 session after my weights brings me down to a recovery mode a lot faster, and I'm not spending so long in that fight or flight. It's that time spent in fight or flight is almost more taxing, based on my feel, than the workload itself. Is if you kind of bring yourself up and you kind of dilly-dally and make that workout last 3 hours talking with the boys, and then you don't eat anything and you stay up for 5 hours, you're wrecked the next day. But that workload condensed and then brought back to recovery mode, done in an hour and a half, you feel a lot better the next day. So it wasn't the workload, it was how long you stayed up. And using that zone 2 as a cue to come down, massively helpful, very underrated, I've found. So we had to get inside, a little bit cold out there. But the second thing that has been helping with my recovery is intra-workout food. Not from a anabolic window perspective, but again, from that perspective of getting back to a parasympathetic state, lowering that sympathetic tone early and not spending a long time in that state, because I felt like that was meaningfully contributing to why I was over accumulating fatigue. So my aerobic base is gonna get a little bit bigger too. But these two cueing things of coming down have made a huge difference. I've mentioned many times that I have for a long time studied the methods of bodybuilders, because when I started into my strength journey, I was very strong for a skinny guy, but I was a skinny guy. And if I wanted to lift really big weights, I needed to get big. So I should study the guys that get big. And I watched every single John Meadows video since I was like 15 religiously. Because I was very curious his take on everything. And one thing that he talked about a lot, it was an anecdote, but it's an anecdote I'm very interested in because it's not just his experience, it's with tons of clients paying very close attention. I definitely put it a category above anecdote in terms of how much I weighted it. He would always talk about how he swore that having good intra-workout nutrition massively boosted his recovery. John was very big on a easy digesting carbohydrate paired with a full spectrum amino acid. So his cheap example, if you didn't want to buy the more expensive one, was just take Gatorade, it's got dextrose, it digests really easy, and put some amino acids in it. And he's like, if you do that, you're taking advantage of this unique window where we're sending like 4 to 10 or whatever it is times as much blood to the muscles. I forget what we were taught in school, but it's a unique window of just how much blood is going to those muscles. And the old hypothesis was, why send empty blood? Why not send the muscles glucose? Why not send the muscles these building blocks, these amino acids in the blood in this extremely unique window? Why not take advantage of it? And he found that, like, oh, if you did that, then you don't have to rush to drink a protein shake afterward, and you could just eat your meal when you do. And he felt like his recovery was massively aided by this. I did the intra-workout carbs for a long time, and it helped, but it wasn't this game changer. And what I switched to doing, because I'm someone that's not having a little food in my stomach, I train better. I don't want to be super full, but I don't like being hungry. I know some guys like being hungry when they train, but what I switched to is just, I would finish the more strength-oriented lift of my workout, which is kind of the halfway point, and I would eat a banana, and then I added, because I'm a big fat fuck, I added these peanut butter and honey bars, just like made of peanut butter and honey. I know some people wouldn't like the fat in there, but I just found it sits almost better in my stomach, and I would just eat these at that halfway point. I would just have a quick 5-minute break, and then I would get into high-pace assistance work. And then at the end of the workout, I finish all my weight training, and I would knock back a protein shake before I do that like 20-minute zone 2 session. And I don't think it's that when you weight train, we're not using that much glucose. It's not that I'm replacing the lost glycogen, because my glycogen was empty. Very unlikely. And it's not that there's an anabolic window in terms of the protein. I think it's that these things are just another signal, right? We call it fight or flight versus rest and digest, digest being the key word. Food is a parasympathetic signal. So eating food as soon as I'm done with training and at that halfway point to where I don't enter that state of feeling hungry seems to also have made a meaningful difference. I'm not gonna lie, the biggest difference is probably just gonna be building up my aerobic base and just getting in better shape at this heavier body weight. But these two things have helped massively, and I wanted to share them with you.